What's up, you guys? Void here, coming back at y'all with another video for Commander. This time we're going to be looking at more or less just a wish list of mine. Probably going to make multiple videos of this, but I'm just going to go 10 cards at a time. What I believe Wizards of the Coast should reprint this year, 2018, for Commander. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be throwing in some obvious inclusions. I mean, there's a lot of cards people want reprinted, and none of the cards are going to be reserve list. This isn't any sort of reserve list mention, anything like that. Abolish it. I'm not like that. I'm just going to be mentioning cards that are well within their abilities to reprint. I think the most expensive cards on this list are going to be $35, maybe $40, but nothing really beyond that. Really affordable, and definitely things that they could include in pre-constructed decks, which is what they're going to do for Commander 2018. A lot of these cards haven't been reprinted anywhere else, so you're going to see a lot of Commander pre-con inclusions that have only been printed once in that deck and never before, like Ash Barrens, which is the first card we have to talk about here. Now, this is a card that is both good playability-wise and also a pretty valuable card right now. Because of the Pauper influence, I'm well aware of that, but it is close to an $8 card right now. It is a common, yeah, but it was printed only in the Commander 2016 set. So its rarity could be mythic for all I really care. It still is going to have that same value because it's a good card. Obviously, it sees play in Pauper, so its value is going to be higher because of that. So yeah, because it's a common, specifically, it's going to have more value than if it were a mythic or a rare. But overall, the difficulty in finding a lot of cards from Commander 2016 is because Commander 2016 was very popular. You see a lot of playability out of that set. A lot of those decks are now gone. Very difficult to find. Very expensive. The Atraxa deck, the Breya deck, more expensive than a lot of Commander decks tend to average. So this card is definitely going to be $7, $8, but they should definitely reprint this in Commander 2018 at least. If they don't decide to reprint it for Masters 25, when they could reprint a lot of these cards, they should definitely do it the 2018 pre-con set. But just ridiculous. I mean, for what the card does, it's good, but it's definitely not an $8 card. The next card we have is Command Beacon. This is almost a $9, $10 card from Commander 2015, another card. It was printed as a Judge promo, but that usually doesn't impact the overall value too often. It's just insane. The card doesn't see a whole bunch of play, but again, it was only printed in one of those decks from Commander 2015. I honestly don't remember which one. I think it was the Azuri one, if I had to give my best guess. But that was sort of the thing with Commander 2015. You had certain cards that were only reprinted in certain decks, and I think they did it for 2016 as well, only giving the Chromatic Lantern reprint to, I believe, the Yidris deck. But it was just incredibly ridiculous. Out of 5 different decks, only one of them got the printing of Command Beacon, I believe. So the card is, I mean, $9 to $10 for what it does. It basically just gives you your commander to your hand, so you can just cast it for its normal CMC. It's not Caracas, but it can in some ways behave like a Caracas. You do have to sacrifice it though, so it's not going to be something you could just repeatedly abuse in the format. But the card itself is pretty decent. I think more people would play it if it were a little bit more affordable. But yeah, I mean, just ridiculous. Too expensive for what it is. Definitely deserves a reprint, and there's no reason why they shouldn't for Commander 2018. Then we move on to some of the artifacts here. We have Thought Vessel. Here's another good one. It was reprinted in Commander Anthologies for the Marin of Clan Neltoth deck, obviously, but that is not going to increase the circulation for the card much. This card is a whopping $6.50 as of the making of this video. Some people are selling it as high as $10. I mean, just ridiculous. It is yet another good common. You have no maximum hand size. It's a 2-drop mana rock that sees play in so many different decks. It's not as good, it's not as much of a staple as Reliquary Tower, but it gives you ramp and it gives you basically the same exact thing. So it's going to see play in almost as many decks. Just an amazing card, sees play in Control, sees play everywhere. And it's only really been printed for the most part in Commander 2015, and I believe this was one of the cards that was printed in all 5 of the decks. But again, it's been a while since Commander 2015. The prices have gone up. That's ridiculous. Up to $10 now. It's not that good. I mean, it's good, but it's not worth $10. And then the next artifact is Blade of Selves, yet another good card from Commander 2015. This one is yet again around $10. It's a pretty good card. It's very good. It doesn't see as much play as Thought Vessel, but it does see play in some good Voltron decks where you want to get some more damage in, spreading it around to your opponents. It's a pretty cool combo card if you want to throw this onto an Omnath Locus of Rage. You get a lot of damage triggers there. Pretty cool card. Myriad is a very unique mechanic mechanic that we haven't seen a lot, definitely since Commander 2015. So yeah, the card is very unique, it's very specific, and it's $10. So if they were to bring this card back, it doesn't mean that they absolutely have to focus on the Myriad mechanic specifically, but it would definitely be appreciated if we had this card back in a more Voltron-based deck. So there's an opportunity there. I'm not saying the card has to be reprinted. I mean, usually with good equipments like these, with the swords, you can expect there to be some sort of value. But Blade of Selves, I don't think it's as much of a staple as a lot of the swords are in the format. So especially when it comes to Voltron decks, it's not an auto-include like a lot of the swords are. Then we actually have the first non-commander set card that hasn't been reprinted in a long time. In fact, it hasn't been reprinted at all, and that is Phyrexian Alter. The card is a whopping $35, and it hasn't been reprinted at all. From Invasion, you have Tsabo Tsavak, pretty cool artwork, but it's not really too much better for a lot of combos than Ashnod's Altar, which that card's been reprinted a whole bunch of times. No one really seems to care too much, but with Phyrexian Alter, it seems like they're hesitant, or they just don't know about it yet. They've been a little lazy, they haven't gotten around to reprinting it. Definitely in Masters 25, it would probably be on the to-do list, but if at all you want to insert some good value into a commander deck, you don't have to put it into all 5 or all 4 of the commander decks this year, but you could definitely just reprint it into one of them, and it should definitely help lower the price of the card. But it is a fantastic card. It sees a lot of commander play, maybe not as much as Ashnod's for combos, but it gives colored mana for the creature you're sacrificing. So in some situations it's better than Ashnod's, in some situations it's worse. Still though, it's right in that same class as Ashnod's in terms of power and what it could give you for your deck. It's a free sack outlet. You don't have to actually pay mana to sacrifice creatures, which is awesome. There aren't too many of those that give you good value for sacrificing the creature. This gives you mana. Pretty cool card. Definitely worth reprinting this year. Now we move on to the colored cards. We have Intruder Alarm, which is seeing an increase in play because of the Kumena Merfolk deck and all the love for tapping and untapping creatures. This card is about a $7 to $8 card right now. Originally printed in Stronghold and reprinted in 8th edition. It isn't super expensive for what the card does. A little surprised it's not actually worth more than that. But again, we're not just going to be interested in reprinting cards because of their value alone, but rather their actual playability. The card is still expensive enough to deter some people from getting it, but I think it's an easy auto-include if you want to reprint cards for decks. Shouldn't be too hard, too difficult to make that decision. It's not a super expensive card, so I think that's definitely worth it. And a lot of combos, yeah, you don't necessarily want to put that much power into a commander deck pre-con, but still definitely worth considering. And then we have Ghoulcaller Giza, one of the legendary creatures from Commander 2014, which is just insane because I don't think she sees a whole ton of play. She sees some play in black and obviously the zombie decks, but she is worth a whopping $14 to $15 right now. And just for reference, I am getting a lot of my prices off a TCG player, but still, that is just way too much. She doesn't see that much play to warrant being a $15 card. And as far as zombie commanders go, we do have the Scarab God, so as far as a good card, she's probably just an awesome part of one of the 99. But again, if you want to make a zombie tribal deck for Commander 2018, if you want to go that far, Ghoulcaller Giza would definitely be an awesome reprint. And I think honestly, if you have expensive cards in your commander sets from the past, that you should definitely feel obligated at least to reprint those cards in future commander precons, especially when they're as expensive as $15. I could understand if it's something like a Wormcoil engine that you reprinted just to try to lower the price, but it's still going to maintain it. I mean, this is a precon exclusive. It's pretty much just going to be reprinted in other precons or master sets or whatever, but it's not going to see too much circulation beyond just the commander players. So it's definitely going to hold its value if you don't reprint it. I don't think it's going to get out of hand, but it's definitely something to consider. And a lot of cards from the older commander sets are now starting to spike up a bit. And then we have Perforos, God of the Forge from Theros. Only printed in Theros, hasn't been reprinted since. That goes for a lot of the gods, but this one in particular is one of the most popular. In fact, he is a $15 card, which is pretty ridiculous when you consider that he is a staple in a lot of decks in the format. A lot of the cards I've showed you may not be staples necessarily, with the exception of Ash Barons and Thought Vessel, but this one definitely is. I mean, Perforos sees play everywhere. If you're playing red, if you have any decent number of creatures, Krenko, Prosh, Skyrider of Care, any of these creature-based decks, you definitely want to throw in a Perforos. Makes the decks so much more powerful. You can knock players out of the game with damage triggers. A lot of good decks want to play with Perforos, and he doesn't make a terrible commander option either. So a very good card, very good for mono red. It needs that support, it needs that power, and Perforos is the power for a lot of red decks in the format. But I believe Iroas has been the only god that they've reprinted so far from Theros block, which means they need to reprint more of them. I definitely think they're good creatures to reprint, very good for commander as a whole. Definitely something that you could throw into commander precons. He's not too expensive to the point where he's just going to weigh the interest to one particular deck out of 4 or 5, but he's definitely good enough to make the deck playable. So very good card in red, definitely needs a reprint. Then we have Primal Vigor, only printed in Commander 2013. Yet another card that shows you the value of a lot of these commander products. It is holding its value at around $14, $15. And yeah, I know what you're thinking, why not just mention Doubling Season? Well, they're pretty much the same card for a lot of decks, but they have a pretty significant difference, and that is Primal Vigor is going to impact your opponent's board as well, so it's not as good. It is a bit risky in that aspect. But as far as that goes, that doesn't mean that you throw this into a deck, it's going to be overpowered. Also impacting your opponent's boards means that it's a little bit more balanced. It's not going to just benefit you. So it's a good card to reprint. It's safe because playability wise, it's not going to just make one deck overpowered. It might make a deck more powerful, but that's about it. It's not going to just be as busted as a Doubling Season effect. And it also doesn't work with Planeswalkers because it's just +1/+1 counters. So it's definitely a little bit safer as far as design goes. But yet again, I mean, another $15 card. It's just ridiculous that, I mean, it's just been since 2012 since we had this card. You know, 6 years later, we're going, hey, I think it might be time to reprint it. And then the last card I have for you guys is pretty obvious, and that is Animar, Soul of Elements. One of the original commanders, and he's resting at about $28, which is pretty expensive. Kaalia did get a reprint in Commander Anthologies, but as a foil and in a very exclusive product. Not a lot of circulation there, so the overall price of Kaalia wasn't going to go down too much. Animar, I hope they don't make that same mistake. If they actually want to make these cards more playable, more affordable to a lot of people, you should definitely lower the card's price and reprint it in a pretty good commander deck. And I think you could make another creature-based deck that could take advantage of Animar as one of the 99. And if you want to go elemental tribal, go with sort of a Horde of Notions type of theme to the deck. I think that would be pretty cool. Animar would definitely be an awesome one of the 99. But yeah, one of the more powerful commanders and one of the long-lasting when it comes to strength and playability. Just a very good commander option, and this could easily just go for a lot of those cards from Commander back in 2012. I mean, a lot of those good options are still pretty expensive and they hold their value, but it just seems that Animar, Kaalia are the two most expensive, and it's getting quite out of hand. I mean, if you look at a lot of the commander options and a lot of the precons, they're under $5, they're pretty affordable. Animar, way too expensive. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this video for 10 cards that I think should be reprinted in 2018. Let me know in the comment section if you want me to make a part 2, and I will try to do that within maybe next week, week after that. Try to make it a little bit sooner. But yeah, I think it's definitely a good idea. Maybe if the word gets out that these cards are that expensive, there might be more of a push to reprint the cards in future products. So even if they don't, the word's still out. If I can do my part to make these cards a little bit cheaper, I would definitely love to do that. But you guys have a wonderful day. Void here signing off. See you all next video.